1 to game 2, you saw some improvement, but then you saw some new mistakes in game 2. And in game 3, we certainly got to get better. And if we want to be the kind of team we want to be, then it's got to be that way every week. You got to keep improving. Certainly early in the season, though, there is some stuff to clean up. But the guys have played really hard, which is good.
Do you feel like, there were a couple of positions coming into the year, defensive end and cornerback with depth was a little bit of an issue. Do you feel like guys have stepped up there? Do you feel better about the depth?
Yeah, I think the guys are playing hard in those positions. Corner, we probably have a little less depth than D-end right now. That's certainly, that's pretty obvious. Where D-end, I think we got a little, just by sheer numbers, we have more players there. Certainly, guys have played well. Reggie's played well. Dave Durham's played well. Shakir Soto's played well. Can they keep improving and playing better? Obviously. But those guys have shown up to play well.
Has Rory Blair done a
Yeah, Rory's done a great job. And, I think Coach Palermo's put him in good situations where, he can succeed early. Not asking him necessarily to play always on first and second down, but playing in more passing situations, more nickel situations. He's done a nice job. He's given us something off the edge.
Does him doing that, is that part of the reason that we haven't seen James on defense yet? Because Rory's been effective?
No, quite honestly, the numbers speak for James. He's carrying the rock right now and pounding it. And the opportunity just hasn't presented itself. We're still working with James. But again, the right opportunity in the game, and when I say that, I mean not only for us on defense, but also for the player. Putting him in a situation you don't want to. There's nothing worse than putting a guy who's, carrying the ball 25 times and in protection another 10 or 15 times. Well, are we better off putting in a fresh defensive end like a Rory, or are we better off putting in James? The situation of the game kind of dictates that, Sam.
With guys like K'Wan Williams and Aaron Donald making their debuts this past Sunday, is that something you've been able to keep up to date with?
I'm super excited. My wife's been watching them at home. I haven't got to watch the games, obviously. I've seen some of the highlights. Scott McKillop showed me the highlight of AD with that tackle for loss and the timing. Certainly happy for those guys. I talked to K'Wan 2 weeks ago, and I'm thrilled for those guys, but I haven't got to watch the games, no.
And specifically with K'Wan, were you surprised he was able to make it on the Browns 53-man roster?
You know what? Honestly, no. I thought he had a redeeming quality for us. It takes, and I don't know if they're using him as a nickel. I know they were in training camp, but that's a different kind of corner than a guy on the edge, and he has some qualities that kind of make him different. So hopefully it's the beginning of a long career for him.
You guys have 5 picks already in 2 games. What's been the biggest thing? I know it's only 2 games, but you have to be pleased with the number of turnovers you've gotten.
And so often interceptions, a lot of times I always say the rush has to match the coverage. And I think that we've had good coverage, and the rush has matched the coverage. And tips and overthrows are what a bunch of those picks come off of. Ray stands out in the BC game. We got a good pocket on that play. Gonzo tips the ball, and Ray catches the tip. So it's been a deal where we've caught the ones that they've thrown to us, and it has been the rush and coverage matching each other.
Reggie was a training camp sensation, I guess. Has he carried that over?
Yeah, and it's so often we want to, with Reggie, it's because he came to us as a transfer, and because of the time he puts in, Jerry, sometimes you forget that he's young, and I'm certainly pleased with Reggie, and the sky's the limit for him. He's certainly done some great things, and he can be even better, which is so exciting. I really am excited about him. He's a guy that grinds the tape. he's in here on his own late at night, and besides being gifted athletically, you can't help but think it's helping him on Saturday or
So you
Friday night.
Sorry. You see guys following him in here? I mean, you know.
Yeah, him and Ray have teamed up a bunch, which is good, and, you know, T-Web's on that, and Lofts got involved, so it's, you know, I said this with AD and again with Ray, that work ethic becomes infectious, and when it becomes infectious and it sets a standard for your team, that's when the process really accelerates itself with your football team. And I think Coach Chris has done a good job of trying to establish that as the culture, and it's starting to build steam. You know, this is the first year where I've really noticed not 1, 2, 3, 4 guys, but a bunch of guys kind of buying into that and putting time in. And certainly I think that helps your growth process. It can't help but, right?
Is that something that has to come from the guys?
You know what? That's a great question. I think when it comes from one of your peers, it means a lot more than when it's coming from a coach. You know, it's hard. They don't want to disappoint a coach, but you certainly don't want to let a teammate down. And when you got guys pulling other guys, that's when it starts. That's when it gets exciting and fun.
Gonzalez seemed to be on point Friday night. He seemed to be making a lot
Yeah,
of
Gonz
plays.
had a good game. He did. And, you know, I thought he made some physical plays. That tackle he made on the boot, the flat route. I mean, we cut the clip out because it's a great example of running your feet through contact. If you watch that play again, his feet from the time he makes contact, I think he gets 4 steps in the ground before the guy hits the ground. And that kind of summed up how he was playing. He was playing fast, and he was playing through contact. Now, certainly, he's set that standard. We expect to see it again and again and again, especially out of the senior.
You count the number of steps he takes?
Well, you know, it's funny, but if you want to, when you study missed tackles, a lot of times one of the common themes to missed tackles, and watch this when you're watching games, I call them dead leg tackles. So when you make contact, your body's in a contact phase, but your feet stop. And a lot of times that's how tackles are missed. When you see a great tackle, a lot of times it's because on the contact phase, the feet are accelerated. When you guys see us do that tackling circuit, and we're tackling the sled or we're tackling the mat, that's what that is. It's simulating not just the contact phase, but the finish phase. Getting the second, third step, and running through the receiver or running through the ball carrier.
What did you see by you?
Really,
in the season?
yeah, really athletic. You know, they had a tailback that surfaced the last game, #1. I think he's a really good player. He makes a great jump cut and run. They got a tight end, number 87, who they flex out as a receiver. He's a fullback, does a lot of good things. He took a bubble pass last week for a 60 or 70 yard touchdown. They got some skilled athletes. I think their quarterback's playing better. I thought he had a good game against Winninger. So they got some skilled folks.
Kind of a typical quick Florida team?
Yeah, you could say, I mean, you can see that speed. There's no question about it. You know, and that young back, when you watch the young back, you certainly think, wow, that's a quick twitch guy.
You like to keep Ray on the tight ends, or does it vary?
It varies, you know, so much of that is formation dictated, you know, especially like the Boston College game. They're shifting, they're moving. You can't always dictate which safety's going to be down to the tight end. If you do, you're jumping all over the place, and then you don't give the kids a chance to play.
Typically, it's